Hey everyone, Meet Kevin here. So you've probably heard of the stimulus checks coming, but have you heard of the other 11 ways that you can take advantage of essentially free money from the government thanks to the stimulus plan? In one way or another, you could benefit in 12 total ways from the stimulus plan. And my goal in this video is to give you a summary breakdown of every single method to make sure that you can take advantage of all of the free money possible and available to you. In this video, I will also be clearing up some commonly held misconceptions, some rumors, some mistakes, and I'll also be answering frequently asked questions so that I can be as detailed as possible for every section while also being as concise as possible. So let's get right into it. Thanks so much for watching up front, and let's go. If your income has gone down as a result of the outbreak, whether or not you used to be an employee of some company, whether or not you're self-employed, an independent contractor, it doesn't matter, 1099, you name it, you might be eligible for the #1 way to get free money from the government. Most of us can now file an unemployment claim, which means we can claim up to $600 for 13 weeks from the federal government directly through our state agency. I'll talk more about details on how to get this money in a moment. But this $600 for 13 weeks stacks on top of whatever state benefit you have. So if your state pays you $300 in unemployment insurance, you could get $300 plus $600 for a total of $900. Again, the $600 portion for a total of 13 weeks, which is just a little over 4 months. Now, there are rumors, and this is a rumor, there are rumors that stimulus package number 4 might actually extend these 13 weeks, but we'll see. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, the rule is $600 for 13 weeks, the state pays you for up to 39 weeks. So if you're in a state like New York, you might get $500 from the state, $600 from the federal government, or $1,100 a week. And for a lot of people, that's more money than we originally make in a week anyway. And there is a little bit of a moral dilemma there that we think of, why is it okay that I could be unemployed and make more money? But you know what? Don't think too hard about it because it is what it is, and you may as well take advantage of the free money if you're eligible. Let's now talk about eligibility. You are eligible for these unemployment benefits if you are self-employed, you are a 1099 contractor, you're an independent contractor, you're a freelancer, or you were laid off either wholly, that is your income went from 100% to 0%, or partially. It's a very, very key word that if your income went down partially, you might be eligible for unemployment benefits. Obviously, it's going to be subject to your state to determine this, but when in doubt, I recommend apply. If your income is higher, I don't recommend you apply and bog down the system, but if you think, hey, my income has been affected, I recommend you apply. When in doubt, apply. I'll talk about where to apply in just a second, but realize what this means. This means that all of a sudden, an entire class of people who ordinarily do not have any kind of unemployment insurance benefits, all of a sudden receive them. Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, restaurant workers, handymen, it doesn't matter. You could be an exotic dancer or barbershop owner. You could be an independent contractor who has an LLC or an S corporation, and all of a sudden your business dried up. You could potentially apply for the unemployment insurance benefits thanks to this new plan, which means you'll be getting that $600 per week for 13 weeks, plus your state benefit for up to 39 weeks. Now, generally, you will not qualify if you were not at least in business by February 15th. If you were in business before February 15th of 2020, you should be eligible. But if you just opened your business during this outbreak, you might be out of luck. Or if you just took a job during the outbreak, you might be out of luck if you're now subsequently partially or wholly unemployed. If you telecommute, which means you can sit at home and on an iPad send emails and still make the same amount of money, you can video conference or whatever, and your income has not been affected because you're telecommuting, you probably won't qualify. But my guess is that if you're now telecommuting, but your supply chains are screwed up because you're drop shipping or whatever, maybe you've had a 50% decline in your pay. In that case, I might consider applying. The bill itself says partially unemployed qualifies. Now, states might not yet have guidelines for them, so whatever you do, when in doubt, apply, but realize nothing's a guarantee. The best way to do it is just apply, get in line, and see what they say, see what their guidelines are. Now, also important, this other section, if you receive other pay, like let's say you're fully employed somewhere and you're still receiving your full income, or maybe you're fully employed somewhere, but then you got laid off and they're paying you some kind of unemployment benefit through that job, you can't double dip and also get unemployment because now your side hustle is not making as much money. So how do you apply? Well, you go to your state's unemployment office for both. Now you can do this online. You could just Google California unemployment, Florida unemployment, New York unemployment, and find out how to file an unemployment claim online. Realize a lot of these systems are antiquated. They're not designed to handle this surge capacity that we're getting right now with all these unemployment claims. So recognize that the servers could crash, things could go poorly. Don't expect to get anybody on the phone. It's gonna be a headache and it's gonna be a hassle. But that doesn't change the fact that the earlier you get in line, the earlier you get paid, which is good. So apply online. Even if this means you have to wake up at 3 a.m. to apply in the middle of the night when nobody else is doing it. Although after this video, some people are gonna be doing it in the middle of the night too. Also, ordinarily, unemployment insurance requires that you're ready, willing, and able to work and you're actively looking for employment. That has now been waived thanks to the stimulus bill. In addition, there used to be a 1-week waiting period. You'd have to wait 1 week before actually being eligible to receive benefits. That has also been removed, but don't kid yourself, because of this flood of applications, I can guarantee you one thing: you will be waiting. But the sooner you get in line, the faster you're gonna get paid. The good news is you may be able to look all the way back to January 27th to redeem your unemployment pay, which means if you got laid off on, let's say, February 1st, or your independent contracting business shut down February 1st, but you don't apply until April 1st, you might be able to look back 8 weeks and get paid $600 a week for that time, plus your state benefit. Remember, they stack. Now, no guarantees on this. Every state is going to look at it differently, but that is what the bill says. If you want to see my breakdown of the bill, by the way, I'm going to put a few links in the description below for other videos throughout this entire video, so reference some of those other videos as well where I break down the bill for you. By the way, if you appreciate this information, I know you will love the information I can provide you on learning how to make money with real estate, learning how to buy real estate below market value so that the day you buy a home for yourself or your first rental property, you're building your net worth instantly. You can't do this in stocks, but you can do it in real estate by taking advantage of wedge deals. Check out the investing course, link below. Check out the coupon code in the description. I'd love for you to be able to maximize your time at home learning how to make money. If you already own rental property, do also consider the property management course for rental renovations and how to deal with tenants. This is the perfect time to increase your cash flow. You can also bundle these programs. You're always welcome to email me for a bundle coupon at kevin@meetkevin.com. Now, what if you're already receiving unemployment payments? Fine, keep collecting them. You should be good. This should automatically adjust for you. You should not have to make any kind of changes. What if your unemployment ran out? Apply again. Totally fine to apply again. But what if you're self-employed and you're trying to apply online and you're like, well, wait a minute, this wants my employer's information, but I work for Uber. Who's my employer? You. If you are self-employed, you put your own information in as the employer. Even though the forms say you can't be self-employed, most of the time this is because the systems have not yet been updated. So apply. Now, number 1 was great. That's some really nice, easy, extra cash flow. Number 2, EIDL. This is what you've been hearing about, the free $10,000 that you can get. This applies if you're somehow self-employed or you're somehow considered an independent contractor, a small business. This is done through the Small Business Administration. So if you're employed, sorry, this isn't for you, but you actually do not need employees to take advantage of this. So maybe you have a side hustle that could qualify for this. Maybe you're a landlord, like the people in my real estate investing course. You got a regular job, but your landlord business has been affected. A lot of small businesses apply. In fact, I spoke directly with the SBA, and they said that the definition of a small business is essentially somebody who has to negotiate with their own contractors, with their own customers, and create essentially their own source of revenues. So for example, if you're a realtor, if you're a web designer, if you're a landlord and you negotiate with tenants or some way, shape, or form, you negotiate your earnings, you are a business. Whether or not you have employees, you should be able to qualify for an emergency injury disaster grant of $10,000. Now, I'm gonna explain the L in a second. The $10,000 grant is free, forgivable money. It is an advance of a loan, that's the L, but it's free, whether or not you actually take the loan. The text of the bill says that within 3 business days of you applying for the EIDL, this $10,000 gets automatically advanced to you. Now, don't believe that. It's probably gonna take a few weeks for them actually to be able to do this and get these systems up and running. You can't really fault them though. Like Congress does something and all of a sudden they're supposed to start giving out checks for 10 grand. Probably not gonna happen that fast, but it will happen. The cool thing about this is even if you apply for this EIDL loan and then you either get denied or you choose not to take the loan, you still get to keep the $10,000 advance. In fact, look on screen now and you'll see an email that one of my course members got showing that basically this $10,000 is free money. So really you can't get hurt applying for this. It's very easy to apply. I'll tell you that in just a second, but remember what's important. You have to just self-certify that you've been affected by this outbreak. So if you've been affected, cool, you qualify. Small business, you qualify. Now, no guarantees on this or this here. Some folks have asked me, well, Kevin, I have multiple side hustles, or I have multiple different LLCs for all my rental properties, or I'm an employee, but I also have a side hustle. Can I apply multiple times? Can I still apply? Folks, when in doubt, apply. Go to sba.gov. Click on the little yellow bar up top, fill your information in. I've got an entire video walking you through step by step that I'm gonna link below if you have any questions on how to fill out the form. And there are some comments on there where people are like, well, Kevin, my social security number doesn't fit in the EIN box. Yes, it does. It just doesn't format it the way you think it should be formatted, but it fits. The form works, people are getting the form submitted. And if the form crashes tomorrow, I'm sorry, okay? It's not my website, but go apply. Heads up, this $10,000 is first come, first serve. There are only $10 billion allocated towards this, which sounds like a lot, but there are 32 million small businesses. Only 1 million people are going to be able to get their free $10,000. So I've already heard that the first 20 to 25% is at capacity. So hop to it because that happened in 24 hours. So this is gonna be gone within the next day or two is my guess. But even if you're watching this after a day or two, apply anyway. My guess is that subsequent stimulus bills might extend these programs. Now, what if you decide to actually accept their loan? For example, you get a loan for $100,000 through the EIDL program. You're gonna get $10,000 advanced. That's forgivable, that's a grant, great. But then you still have $90,000 of a loan that you can get. That loan is a loan. It has to be paid back. There's a different program, which we're gonna talk about next, for forgivable loans. But applying for this does not mean you can't also apply for the other one. Again, when in doubt, apply. Just by applying, you're not automatically waiving your right to get something else. In fact, there's something in the SBA guidelines through the stimulus bill that says just because you've applied for other forms of financing does not disqualify you. So you can apply for other forms of financing. My recommendation is after you get your terms and conditions, read those. And when you read your terms and conditions, if let's say one of them says, well, if you take this, you can't do this, fine, make the decision at that point. But in the meantime, take your 10 grand. Do not feel fearful, fill out the information. If you go for that extra 90K or the extra up to essentially $2 million through the EIDL program with SBA.gov, you're going to generally get a 30-year loan with an interest rate not to exceed 4%. And I do not believe the rest of this EIDL loan is forgivable. So we'll have to check terms on that. So really what's exciting about the EIDL is the free 10K. The loan itself, not so exciting. That's instead where we're gonna get to number 3. By the way, in addition to checking out my courses linked below, don't forget that Webull is giving away 2 free stocks if you deposit just $100 into their stock trading platform. The stocks can be valued anywhere between $2 and $1,400, so you may as well roll the dice, shifting just $100 over to the Webull stock trading platform. Number 3, let's talk about the Payment Protection Program. So remember the EIDL program? You go apply for that at the SBA. Well, the Payment Protection Program, you can generally go apply for this at local credit unions or banks, but you can also apply for this at the SBA. This has led to a lot of confusion because the SBA does both of them. Keep this in mind. Again, you can apply for both of them. Just read your terms and conditions once you actually get an offer. The PPP is going to be a lot more involved. This is where you're gonna have to do profit and loss, provide your tax returns, provide your 4506T. Those are the transcripts for your tax returns. I've made a video on details for this, but in summary, you can go to the SBA website and look at the general guidelines that they need for you to be able to apply for this. Typically, it's tax returns, your profit and loss statements, your income and liability statements. There are various different forms you could use for this. It's generally a more in-depth loan. So the EIDL you can apply for in like 5 minutes. The PPP is gonna take a little bit more effort to put together, but you get some substantial and real benefits with the PPP. Now, the EIDL you can do without employees, but the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, generally requires that you have either payrolled employees or you 1099 help. Like you 1099 somebody to do your books for you, to install your signs, to do your advertising. Somehow you're generating employment for other people. In this case, you can apply. Again, it's a more involved process. A lot of banks and credit unions, by the way, are overwhelmed and they're just referring people to the SBA because they're so inundated. So this is why you could really do both at the SBA. This is what caused a lot of confusion again. But again, you could go to the SBA, apply for the PPP. You can get a loan of up to $10 million, 4%, a 10-year term, but this is where the magic is. This is where the free money is. The loan goes into immediate deferment for up to 1 year, which means you make no principal and interest payments on that loan for the first year. And as long as you spend the money on qualified expenses and you bring your employees back that you laid off and you don't fire anybody, you can have this loan forgiven. Now, here's what the loan could be used for. You could use the proceeds of the PPP for things like group health insurance payments that you're paying for your employees, sick pay, vacation pay, 401k matches like the bonus you're giving your employees, wages, commissions, tips. There is a limit on this. You can't pay somebody's payroll that's more than $100,000. If their payroll is more than 100K, it gets kind of reduced down or prorated down to 100K. Mortgage expenses, rent expenses, debt expenses, equipment expenses, basically anything you need to keep your business open works. And I mean, think about this. Would the government rather give a dentist's office $1 million to pay all their employees and their rent and their equipment and keep all those people employed, maybe not necessarily working, but the business together? Or would they rather have that company go bankrupt, then have all those people file for unemployment, get the $1 million anyway through unemployment? It all adds up, right? All the costs of bankruptcy and all that. What would they rather have? So it makes sense. This is exactly why if you have a small business, the PPP is really nice. It could pay a lot of money for you, a lot of your expenses. You could do this as a service for your employees. This is huge. Apply for this. Get your 10K grant. That's cool, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to your potential to keep your business running with up to $10 million in expenses. And there's even a provision that says if you need more than $10 million, if you are an essential provider of jobs and you're a small business with less than 500 employees, they might let you exceed that $10 million limit. Just a heads up, I do not believe cannabis companies qualify for this. Number 4, what if you want to start a side hustle? You want to start a side business, or you want to grow your business after all this madness blows over? Well, you can take advantage of free, like a ton of free money in the form of free services from local small business development centers. If you've ever watched Undercover Billionaire, you'll actually see how he goes to this small business development center and they help him do research, market research, branding, trademarks, names, legal help, accounting help, corporate setup help, all this stuff literally for free. So before you spend money on attorneys and CPAs, and I'm not saying that these companies are replacements for attorneys and CPAs, don't think that. I'm just saying, like, step one, keep as much cash in your pocket as you can, especially in hard times, and take advantage of the fact that this stimulus bill is giving billions to small business development centers to help you build a new side hustle or expand your current side hustle or create a company that's gonna be your main hustle. Take advantage of this. It's essentially free money in the form of services. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those corporations or these small business development centers would be open to essentially Zoom meeting you rather than meeting you in person. Number 5, the $0 mortgage and rent. First up, the mortgage. If you stop paying your mortgage, your credit is going to get screwed. You have to contact your loan servicer, which is the person you make your payments to. You wanna contact that company. I've got a very detailed video on me calling companies like this in the links down below. Watch those videos, but we'll go into the summary here. You have to call them and request forbearance. Now, some servicers will let you do this online. Like Flagstar has a really good form you could look up online. You press a few buttons, you fill out some info, you press I want forbearance, boom, you send it off and you wait to hear. This is good. This is really, really good. And they make it very easy now. Here are the typical terms you're looking for, and here are some things you want to follow. Number 1, if you are a 1 to 4 single family house, duplex, triplex, fourplex, any kind of residential property, you can request forbearance or a freeze to your payments essentially for 90 days. And you could extend that for potentially another 90 days. If you are an owner of an apartment building and you have 5 units plus, as long as it's residential, whether you live there or not, you can request forbearance for 30 days with potentially another 30 days added after that. And then you have to keep asking for extra 30 days. You just have to make sure you give them 15 days notice before your next 30-day period. Very, very important. The multifamily, this bigger space is kind of getting screwed compared to this 1 to 4. This only works if you have something called a federally rated mortgage. Watch the video down below. I go deep into detail as to what that looks like. The odds are, though, most of you have a federally backed, federally rated mortgage. Now, when you request forbearance and you get an offer from the bank that says, all right, we're gonna give you some options here, make sure that they tell you in writing they will not affect your credit, that they will continue to report you as a current borrower, as long as you were current when you requested forbearance. If you were late and then you request forbearance, they're gonna keep reporting you as late. But if you're current and you get forbearance, your credit shall not be affected, but you need to get that in writing so you can document this. So get in writing that your credit won't be affected. Get in writing how long you can freeze your payments. And the next thing you wanna do is make sure you get in writing what the payback options are. The best option is getting those 90 days or 180 days worth of payments added to the end of the loan. That is the best case scenario. End of the loan, boom. You just literally took money today that was owed and added it to a time 25 to 30 years down the road. Best case scenario for you as a consumer. Really smart money decision. The next best option is the installment option, where you basically pay the money that you owed during those 90 or 180 days back with, let's say, $100 or $200 or $300 per month over the next year and a half. That's still pretty good. You get some time value of money benefit. You get benefit now and that you don't have to pay now during the rough time. This is also good. Worst case scenario, they say, hey, you owe us everything at the end of the term. I wouldn't even go for that deal. I think that's a horrible deal. It's a ripoff. It's just almost designed to screw you. I don't like it. It's possible that banks are gonna say, well, you have to go with this option, and then we'll talk about these options later, but be careful because then you might run into this corner where they go, well, now we're gonna report you to the credit bureaus now that everything's gone. If you're gonna miss your payment, then we're not gonna help you modify your loan. Because remember, a lot of lenders will actually say, we will not modify your loan unless you've stopped making payments. But if this whole outbreak blows over and you're done with your forbearance and now all of a sudden you owe 4 months of payments in 1 month, because that's what you agreed to, and they're like, cool, apply for a loan mod. Step 1 for a loan mod, start missing payments, boom, hits your credit. This could be a nasty way the banks try to screw you, so stay away from the pay in full at the end of the forbearance period. Very, very, very dangerous. Now, here's a big question that I've been getting. What if you're currently refinancing or you're getting a loan or you plan to get a loan? Is asking for forbearance on an existing loan going to screw you in the qualifying process? The answer is maybe, but it's not clear yet. Because if during forbearance, your forbeared lender reports you as current, well, then your new lender shouldn't know about the forbearance. But it's possible they might make you sign a form saying, I haven't requested forbearance from anybody. And then you're kind of like, do I lie or do I tell the truth and not get my loan? So be careful. Yeah, it is possible that your new lender could find out. Now for owners, you're probably still going to have to pay your prorated taxes and insurance, which means if you have an escrow balance and you're not making your payment, you might end up with higher payments later as you have to catch up on extra insurance and tax payments. So keep that in mind. Some counties are offering forbearance on taxes. You have to check your individual county. You have to apply for that individually. So there are a lot of hoops and hurdles to go through here. There's also the potential downside that if you accept forbearance and your tenant starts breaking the contract, like they start smoking in the unit even though they're not supposed to, generally if you accept forbearance, you're definitely not allowed to evict somebody, which currently you're allowed to evict somebody as long as their income isn't affected by this outbreak. Although potentially everybody could say their income is affected by this in one shape or another, and a lot of courts are closed anyway, so I don't know how much this downside really matters. Now let's talk tenants. Okay, for tenants, your goal for $0 in rent is come up with a plan, ask, and document. Basically, the more communication you give to your landlord, the greater likelihood you have of getting the best deal possible. So ask your landlord, talk to them up front if you're having trouble, or hey, I'm gonna have trouble in June if this continues. Be upfront, come up with a plan now, and come prepared with a plan. If you send an email to your landlord, hey, I'm gonna have trouble in June, but just a heads up, I should be able to still pay half because I'm getting paid unemployment or this, that, or the other. Do that. Be upfront, be transparent. Everybody's trying to help everybody out. Everybody's in a difficult situation, but paying zero is gonna be a little bit more difficult as a tenant. Even though evictions are banned, you don't want this thing to be blown over and then all of a sudden a landlord sues you in small claims and screws up your credit by getting a judgment against you. Not saying that they would, but I mean, in theory, it could happen. So be careful, plan, ask right. You still owe the money. Best case scenario for you here is getting an installment plan with your landlord. You don't want to owe everything at the end of your lease term because your move out's gonna suck. So come up with some kind of plan that you'd be comfortable with to repay this. Oftentimes, this will incorporate with landlords some sort of actual lease extension. Like, hey, we'll give you an installment plan if you agree to stay for another year and a half from today, something like that. It's options for landlords as well. The number 6 way to make money through this stimulus plan is actually through a cool new change to the HSA. In case you are not yet familiar with what the HSA is, it is a health savings account. It's kind of like a retirement account. The cool thing about the HSA is you can have this in addition to a retirement account. Individuals can contribute $35.50 per year or $7,100 as a family. What this actually does is it basically gives you like a TD Ameritrade account that you can invest in stocks or mutual funds or whatever. And you get a tax deduction for putting this money in. Now, generally the deadline for depositing money into an HSA is the tax filing deadline, which this year is July 15th, 2020, unless it gets delayed again. But the big thing is, beyond putting money into an HSA and getting a tax deduction for that, which by the way, if you wanna set that up, I set mine up with Lively. There's a link down below that makes this very, very easy for you. Click that Lively link and you'll be able to set that up very, very easily. It was no cost for me to set up. I got my TD Ameritrade set up within minutes through Lively. They made it so easy. Check out that Lively link. But anyway, what this account lets you do is put money into essentially a retirement account that grows with your investments. And then you can take that money out and spend it on qualified medical expenses tax-free. Now, obviously, I'm not a CPA, so consult a CPA to get accurate details on all of this. But there are a host of qualified medical expenses, like certain surgeries, in vitro fertilization. I mean, a lot of medical related expenses, some prescriptions, a lot of things fall under qualified medical expenses. So what that actually means is, when you spend $1,000 on healthcare, you usually don't get a tax deduction. But if you put money into an HSA, you put $1,000 in, you get a tax break on that $1,000. Then you go to spend that money on qualified medical expenses, you don't have to pay taxes. And what the stimulus plan just did, and this really applies to women, but dudes, your women are gonna love you if you tell them this and you do this with them. The stimulus bill added to qualified medical expenses that all of a sudden, all expenses on menstrual products are qualified medical expenses. This now means If your girlfriend spends, I don't know, $250 or $1,000, I don't know over what period of time, on menstrual products, that's now tax deductible if you do it through an HSA. That's huge. I mean, if you pay 30% in taxes, you spend $1,000 on menstrual products, you now get a $300 tax break, which both y'all, if you're a dude watching this, can go spend at a restaurant or whatever you want. I mean, you get a tax break. This is cool. So look into this HSA. The stimulus plan basically just gave you some more free money here on more stuff you could write off. And I mean, come on, most people watching this know somebody who needs some more tax write-offs, and well, I mean, that's just nature. So, all right, moving on. Number 7, if you happen to have a 401k, huge changes here in the stimulus bill that basically give you access to some sweet, sweet, sweet money. Number 1, ordinarily, once you reach a certain age, you have to make distributions from your 401k plan. You actually have to take money out at a certain age. Well, because right now that would mean you'd probably be selling low, the government said, you know what? Don't worry about it. For now, no distributions are necessary. Now, ordinarily, when you take money out of your 401k as like an emergency fund, you have to pay a penalty and you have to pay taxes. Well, confirm this with a CPA or your custodian, but my understanding is you can now withdraw $100,000 from your 401k penalty-free as long as you pay it back within 3 years. That's incredible. And ordinarily, when you take money out as like an emergency fund or for whatever reason, you have to pay income taxes on that money pretty much right away or the next time you go to file your taxes. That is now also waived if you pay the money back within 3 years. So check with your custodian, confirm this. Penalty-free 100K withdrawal from your 401k, and you don't have to pay any taxes on it as long as you pay it back within 3 years. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. This means you're basically using the government's money as an emergency fund. In my opinion, that right here, when disasters like this happen, I see this happen over and over again. They did this with opportunity zones as well. This kills the Roth to me. Now, I'm not trying to create a debate here over the Roth, but that is amazing. The flexibility that people are getting with these, accounts where you get a tax deduction for depositing the money rather than paying your taxes over here actually gives you more access to more money. Really, really, really powerful here. In addition to that, you used to be able to only take out a $50,000 loan against your 401k. Like you could buy a house and you could borrow the money from your 401k as a down payment for your house, and then you pay that money back. And if you want to buy a house, make sure you join me in my courses linked below because they're amazing. They'll teach you all of this kind of detailed stuff just about real estate. Then keep in mind that this 50K loan now with the stimulus plan has been doubled. You can actually take out up to $100,000. And if you've already drawn a loan, you can now get an extra year to pay that back. Really cool options here for the 401k. Now this one applies unless you itemize your taxes, which if you don't know whether or not you itemize your taxes, the odds are you don't. You probably claim the standard deduction. If you don't own real estate, you probably claim the standard deduction, which the standard deduction is $12,200 for individuals or $24,400 for married couples filing jointly. So if you write off less than this in itemized expenses, you're probably taking the standard deduction, which if you take the standard deduction means you get no benefit for charitable contributions within the standard deduction. But a new loophole via the stimulus bill has been added. If you take the standard deduction, which most of us probably take the standard deduction, okay, this applies. If you take the standard deduction, you can now donate up to $300 of charitable expenses or charitable contributions, basically, related to this outbreak, and you could get a tax write-off for doing that, which ordinarily you would not get because it would just sort of vanish within your standard deduction. So let me just make this really, really, really simple. If you don't know what any of this means, basically, if you donate $300 and you pay about 30% of taxes, you probably are going to save about $90 on your taxes. So if you are in the spirit of donating, or you've already donated, write this down for your CPA next year because you might be able to say, hey, I donated $300. You made basically $300 less in income. That's how they're doing it for people with a standard deduction, which might save you somewhere between $90 to say $150, depending on what state you're in and how much in taxes you're paying. It's a nice little bonus. I think it's in great spirit. It gets you out there considering donating to people in need or people who need help, or maybe you've already donated masks. You can now claim a little coupon coupon, so to speak, for doing that. And hey, you know what? I'm not gonna laugh off $90 to $150 in free money. Now, as with any form of debt, like a car payment or credit card payment, you could probably request forbearance at a lot of these. But for number 9, the stimulus plan has basically given free money to people who have student loans that are federal student loans. That means not a student loan like Sallie Mae, Discover, Wells Fargo, any kind of these perks or state programs or local programs. Those will probably have their own programs, but you'll have to check there. But if you have a federal student loan, you just got some really cool things. You got 2 months interest-free, no payments, wage garnishment stopped, and it won't affect your 120 rule, where if you make 120 months of free payments, you might have your federal student loans forgiven. This is huge. But another really, really big thing, you might be able to get $5,250 for free. Now, if you happen to have a job and you have student loans, your employers just got a sweet new tax break. They have the ability to pay $5,250 to you to pay off your student debt. That is going to be a tax write-off for the employer. And guess what? It's gonna be tax-free for you. That's huge. It never usually works like this. This means the government is taking the short end of the stick. That basically means you could get $5,250 in free money. So obviously, and I mean, confirm all this with a CPA, right? But obviously, what are employers and employees going to do? Well, I guess you're making a little bit less money and, we're gonna pay a little bit of your student loans every month this year instead. So that way you're getting tax-free money to pay off your student loans and your employer is getting a write-off. So there's gonna be a lot of manipulating that goes on here, but this is a great, great perk. Really beneficial for people with student loans, really beneficial for employers who are able to pay this. Now, if you're like a pro money hacker, who knows, you might go look at like the PPP plan to get a forgivable loan and start paying employees' debts of $5,250. I don't know about that. This is where you start getting into like, is that ethical? That's how the rule is written, or at least that's how I believe the rule is written. Is that okay? Can you do that? But you could start seeing, you could really start blending a lot of these different things here to make a lot of money off the stimulus plan. Now, I'm so confident that this one has been beaten to death. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but number 10, and I've got 2 more after this, but number 10, yes, you get a stimulus check. Yes, you get $1,200 if you're single, up to $75K. Yeah, $2,500 up to $150 if you're married. HOH, head of household, gets somewhere in between. $500 per child. It starts phasing out if you make a little bit more than 75 or 150K, so don't worry, it's not like you're gonna lose everything if you make a little bit more. But what I really highly recommend everybody do, make sure you watch my video on how to get the stimulus check as fast as possible. I'm gonna link that down below. Really, really informative video to make sure you get that money as fast as possible. And if you don't care, you don't have to watch the video, but if you want the money faster, watch that video, tips, tricks, exactly what to do step by step for you in that video. Now, paid leave is technically part of the prior stimulus bill that was passed in mid-March, but I'm gonna mention it here. If you work for an employer that has under 500 employees, you could qualify for these new forms of paid leave. Just a heads up, if your employer has less than 50 employees, they might be able to loophole out of paying this, given some hardship exemptions that exist, obviously because of the outbreak. But basically, the program says that if you are sick, you could get up to 2 weeks, 80 hours paid, full pay during that time. Really, really good. Now, the limit for that is $511 per day, up to $5,110. That's the maximum benefit here. Now, if you care for somebody else, you get up to $200 per day, calculated at, I believe, 2/3 of what your ordinary pay would be, up to $2,000. And if you have to take care of a child, you could get up to $200 per day, again, up to 2/3 of your ordinary full-time pay, all the way up to $12,000 in paid leave pay. So here's really an opportunity where if you're sick, you could get up to $5,110. If you're caring for somebody, you could get up to $2,000. If you're caring for children, you could get up to $12,000. Again, if you work for an employer with less than 500 employees, and then sort of an asterisk and a maybe if you work for an employer with less than 50 employees. Now, number 12, I just want to bring attention to, there's now a new way for rich, wealthy people to write off more of their expenses on real estate. They can carry over more losses by owning real estate, and they can make more deductions on certain types of commercial real estate, like leaseholds or exteriors of commercial properties, retail, and things like this. Basically, the point of me bringing this up is if you're rich through real estate, the government tends to give you more loopholes every single time a bill passes. Real estate is an incredible way to build wealth, and if this pisses you off, you gotta say to yourself, if you can't beat them, join them. Go to the links below, join me in the real estate investing course, and learn how from $0 you could finally build your wealth by investing in real estate. Get rid of that tenant mindset because it's going to keep you poorer. Get into real estate. One day you're gonna be looking at this going, damn, Kevin was right.